What is going on, you awesome people? It's your friend, your career coach, your recruiter pal, Phil Davis over at FulPhillment. We are streaming live on LinkedIn, on our YouTube channel, and for the first time, I'm trying it on Facebook. So I've got a personal Facebook account. So I said, you know what? Let's just put it on Facebook and see what happens, right? So we appreciate you all if you're streaming on any of those areas. We definitely are happy that you all are here. Season 2, episode 6. I can't believe it. It's definitely just flown by like crazy. So I'm going to reset the room. And for those of folks who may be new to watching the stream here, real quick, just want to talk a little bit about who I am, just so you know. I am Phil Davis. I am the founder, CEO, career coach, recruiter over at FulPhillment. And FulPhillment is a unique career coaching and recruiting consultancy company. And I primarily help mid-senior level professionals find fulfillment along their path by tuning into their talent and their unique value add. So that's what we do over here. But enough about me. I want to bring a special guest up here, Tiffany Castagno. So Tiffany is a wonderful friend. We met on LinkedIn about oh gosh, I don't want to say 2 years ago, but I think that might be about right. It's been a couple of years. But my good friend Tiffany, she also is an entrepreneur. She is the CEO, the founder. I like to call her the Chief Empowerment Officer of her business, CEPHR LLC. She helps all sorts of organizations, small, mid-sized, startup, non-for-profit, for-profit, all these different companies, not only build, infrastructure, policies, processes, procedures within operations and HR, but she's also passionate about helping companies define and build their company culture and employer branding. And so I really wanted to resume FulPhillment Live and bring this important topic up in play, just because we all can learn from company culture. We can all learn, whether you're a business tuning in, whether you're a job seeker tuning in. We can all come together in this hour session, collaborate, and learn. So for those tuning in, let us know where you're tuning in from. Send us a hi. Give us your feedback. We definitely love having these comments that you're bringing out in play as well, and really getting to learn from you all as well, because we're all here to learn from each other. So I'm going to bring Tiffany up here on the stage. Let me turn the little bottom caption off. Season 2, episode 6. Tiffany, my friend, you are live. How you doing?
Yay. Hello, Phil. Hello, everyone, wherever you're calling in from in the world. Is that what we're saying? Calling in? We're
Calling in,
calling
tuning
you.
in. I think if I want to keep on brand, I'd say tune in, right? I have to
Tune
tuning in.
in.
If you're
Yes.
tuning into the session, we're here.
Yeah.
So
I tried to keep my colors a little on brand. This was very intentional.
I
So
love it.
just for you.
I love it. I appreciate it. I do. I do. So we've got some comments coming in here. We've got Ellen from Central Texas. Thank you for joining. We appreciate it. How's the weather over there? I know we've been getting hit pretty hard down here with just the storms, but I know up your way too, Tiffany. You've been doing pretty good weather-wise.
Pretty good, pretty good. It's been a little bit fall-like this week, and we had some hot weather last week too, but it's been dry. So we're excited that we've been getting a little bit of rain. We got a good soaking the other day. Everybody's grass is like straw.
I love it. Yeah, it's like yesterday we so I usually, and I also I'm in a different room in the house, so I work downstairs whenever Kelsey, my wife, is working offsite or doing something else, because our dog Grace, we have a couch kind of the corner area, and she'll lie down there and stuff like that. And I change of scene. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, and so basically Grace, she'll get scared of storms, and so like all day yesterday, I had to just kind of hang out with her and be like, "It's okay, Grace, it's okay." But that's what we do for our family. You get to care for them and all that stuff. Ellen says, "Oh, okay. Heat index is 110. Oh my gosh!
It's
Like,
too hot for me.
I don't know how y'all do it over there. That is hot, hot, hot,
It's
hot.
really hot.
My gosh! Thanks for sharing, Ellen. Awesome. No, this is awesome, awesome, awesome. But yeah, folks. Definitely, we're gonna just do a gentle reset of the stage and everything. So, of course, FulPhillment Live, Season 2, Episode 6 with Tiffany. If you are tuning in, whenever you come on here, if you're coming on here for a few minutes, if you're watching the whole thing, definitely let us know where you're tuning in from. Say hi, give us some feedback. So, Tiffany, I always like to ask my guest speakers, kind of from the beginning, I love kind of starting out with an elevator pitch, right? So, who is Tiffany? What are you all about? And just kind of go from there.
Yeah. So when you said before 2 years, I think it has been 2 years that we've met. I was thinking about this last week. Um, but really, who I am is community. And I started with that because that's how the two of us met through LinkedIn. And now we're on other channels together, which is super exciting. And that's, I'm beyond the work, right? My work is an extension of who I am, but it's not my full identity. And I think because of the diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging work I do, because that's a personal value and the intersections at which I sit, but also because of community. I know how important that is. And so for me in my work, it's about engaging, enriching, and involving the person, the human potential, but also the organization. So all those things that you shared that I do, they're an extension of the CEPHR values. And those are an extension of my personal values because people are my jam, they're my business. And I really just love helping people reach their top potential as individuals and as businesses. That's what lights me up. We got to walk in purpose, and I definitely walk in mine.
Ooh, ooh, I love that. I definitely want to dig into that a little bit too, and your values, right? So you talk about your core personal values. Like what are some of them? Like if you had to name a couple of them, like what are your own values and why?
Yeah, so actually I had so I'm pretty active on Twitter. I recently had a post that said, maybe it was on LinkedIn that I posted this, but I talked about honesty, integrity, and kindness. It was LinkedIn because I was talking about some of my other extended community who I met from LinkedIn. I got to meet them in person recently. And if you can't be honest with yourself and with others, if you can't do what you say you're going to do, and if you can't be kind, like I can't rock with you. And that applies to clients. I'm very specific. I won't just work with anybody, but I don't keep folks like that in my circle either. And so those are three of my core values that extend into CEPHR. DEIB is diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging is another one of those. And that's because of the intersections I sit at, but also because it's so important in the work we do and because organizations and society need to embrace this so we don't have all these issues, which, if we're honest, if we have integrity, if we're kind, that folds into diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging. Agility is something as a startup, as a sole business owner who has a team but not employees. It is definitely something that you have to lean into. We just came, I think we're out of this pandemic, but the world has shifted. And so for me, being nimble and being open to change and pulling in strategic partners for those different perspectives is really important as well. Community is one of them too. Shocker. I'm telling
Yeah,
you,
I'm
no,
surprised
it's
about
about
that
building
one.
bridges, right?
I'm surprised. Community. Well, yeah, that was and I've written all of these down. You see me looking down. I tell folks all the time, if you see me look, I'm handwriting notes. I don't type. I like to handwrite my notes. But community was the very first one you said. Just to recap, right? Tiffany's values: community, people, walking in purpose, honesty, integrity, kindness, DEIB, being nimble, being open to change. Which, of course, I want to really I really want to get deep into that on a company perspective as well, right? And with culture. So that's
Mhm.
awesome. So yeah, I mean, we see it all the time, right, on social, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's on Twitter, whatnot, right? Like you get a lot of folks, whether it's job seekers writing content or recruiters or companies writing content, you know, you hear the two words company culture. And I think what's important is to get in the audience to kind of understand like your definition of company culture, right? I'd say really like what is an effective company culture, just kind of on a high level. Then of course we'll dig deep into it. But what would you say there? Like, what does company culture mean to you?
Yeah, to me, and this is the reason why DEIB is folded into everything because it's not, hey, come do this workshop for our company, and then you go away and we're not going to commit. It is everything that from the time somebody is seeking to, for the full employee life cycle, whether they are in your company, they've left your company, have returned to your company, or they're still seeing if there's a match with your company. It's everything in that full life cycle that's living and dynamic. It's all the things that make up your team and the why, your mission, vision, values behind why are you doing any of this stuff in the first place. And to me, I describe it as a feel. I promise you, you can feel the difference in a healthy culture and a toxic culture when you work in it and when you walk in. And so I was describe it as like the couple who was fighting before you came over to dinner, and now you're here and you're like, this is awkward. That's not good culture, right? But the couple who's holding hands and maybe they're not displaying their PDAs, but you just feel that there's a liveliness to it and that you can be seen, heard, valued, and appreciated there.
I love that. I love that. It's a feeling in your opinion. I'm with you just because my Myers Briggs indicator. Of course, I'm a feeler versus a thinker. I know you know that already. But I'm very much emotional and in a feeling sense or in a filling sense, if you want to pun it a little bit. I like to
You're
feel.
so in tune.
I want to feel good or feel good in tune. Krista Brenner, a good
Hey,
recruiting
Krista.
expert, my friend as well. Tuning in from Canada to support the best of the best. Oh, stop it. And to learn more about the amazing Tiffany. I appreciate you, friend. Thank you for being here. I know you're busy working today. So thanks for tuning in for a few minutes and
Yes.
impacting up your way. I know I love the global outreach and just being able to, get on. That's why these lives are so cool, right? Like, do I
Mhm.
have to do these LinkedIn lives with people? No, but I love doing them because it just gives us that time to, like you said, to build community, and to learn from each other in a different way. So, folks, too, like if you are tuning in, like we do want to hear your comments. We do want to see what you think about this live. And if you tune into the replay, same thing. Let us know what you think. So, okay, so a feeling. You spoke earlier too about like having mission, vision, and values with a business, right? So, like,
Mhm.
let's say and I'm sure you've with your expertise and stuff. I know you've worked with companies that maybe they have a mission, vision, values, but maybe they don't, right? And so, like, how do we go into an organization and really help them to define, MVV, mission, vision, values, if maybe they don't have one or they do, but it's not maybe necessarily like connecting with the company culture. So how can businesses, really tune in right into those mission, vision, values?
I love it, and it involves one of our other core pinnacles or values at CEPHR, which is active listening. And so it's listening
Mm.
to your team internally, it's listening to your community, your stakeholders. And it's funny you asked this because I've had a couple of clients. One of my partners and someone on the team, we're working through this kind of visioning and valuing session with one of our clients, and we're doing this for like a year-long process. They have values, right? You have to start with something. You have to have a purpose. You have to start with your why. I love that you called it MVV because that's how I shorten it all the time.
Ah.
But definitely making sure that you understand who you are, you understand who you serve, and you understand why you're doing it. Because if we don't have a why and people, you can't articulate that to people, your team doesn't understand, your clients don't understand, there's no common thread of what that looks like from an employer branding. Who do you aspire to be? That's really what it is. And I have a client who describes this perfectly all the time. They're like, everything they talk about is this is who we are, this is who we aspire to be, it's where we're going. And if you don't have that, it's asking yourself these questions that I just laid out, but also listening. And when you ask people, just like you did, Phil, what's the feedback you have for us? How's this going? Share your perspectives. That's a good way to determine who you are. It doesn't mean you're lost. We had a client who kind of reinvented themselves because they were on their DEIB journey and they knew they needed to embed that in. They were trying to get a B Corp. And so they decided to involve their team. Let's listen to our employees. What a novel idea, right? Let's see what they have to say. Let's learn and understand. And it's really like, what are the behaviors that are going on? What are the behaviors that you want? What does it look like for you to be here in 10, 15, 20 years from now, which is one of the questions we asked a client recently. And if you can't connect into that and you can't do that strategically versus let's plop a band-aid on, then that's a problem. But it really is, that is how you build your culture, because when we get away from
Mm.
who we are and who we say we're going to be, we're posting stuff on our website that's check the box, or because this is what we're supposed to do, this is what the industry said, this is what my competitor is doing. That is not, it's not who you are as a culture, right?
Oof.
And so those are some of the things that I would recommend people really examine and have the hard conversations and face yourself in the mirror when maybe what you think you are is not how your customers are experiencing you or your team is experiencing you. That's a huge.
Mm. I love that. I love that so much. Active listening, And this is kind of where I'll say, like, job seekers, hint hint, if you're listening, tuning in right here at this time slot, which we're about 11:17, she says here, mission, vision, values is a feeling, right? Active listening, understanding your purpose and your why, and these other things. Who are you, right? So as you start thinking about, looking at your career journey, and maybe if you're looking for another job right now, or if you're in the process of maybe figuring out what's next for you, right? Ask these questions that Tiffany said here. Who are you? You know, who do you serve? What is your purpose? What is your why, right? Um, what are your behaviors? What kind of environments do you like to thrive in, right? I have a clarity coaching. I do like some one-on-one clarity coaching, but I've got a clarity coaching worksheet that I'm going to be bringing out here this month, a little bit later, and a lot of those questions, I kind of, it'll be a good kind of worksheet to bring you as you start thinking about clarity. But I love how your responses really tie into the job seeker perspective. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Catherine, my other good friends here too. Let's see, get some comments
Thank
here.
you.
Hey there, sorry for dropping in late. Great so far. Know yourself,
Yes.
1,000%. Know thyself.
Know thyself. I've been into the thyself lately. I don't know what is going on with me, but I'm like channeling my Shakespearean spirit.
I love it. I love it. Krista Friend says here, that's so on point, Tiffany. Totally agree. Understanding your purpose and your why are key for business and for job seekers, for
Absolutely.
people, like you said earlier, for people, for
People.
people. I
Real
love it. I
people.
love it. We've got Syed. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Syed Heil from tuning in from DC.
Represent.
Beautiful. Thank you for being here. I love it. Absolutely. And also too, can we dig a little deeper? This is going to be kind of a random question, but I wrote this down. I said, like, right here, I said, like, no band-aids when you talk about the band-aids, right? Or like if you try to stick a band-aid on, like, I mean, how how can businesses, because, like, let's face it, right? Some of these businesses out there, we would think, have some kind of band-aid kind of temporary solutions on when it comes to, like, transformation of culture, right? But
Mm-hmm.
how can they kind of remove that band-aid, dig a little deeper, into their, employee base, right, or their workforce, and you know I want to say organically, but you know what I mean, like, naturally, like, transform their culture so that it's really more people based slash employee based, right? Like, how what's your, I guess, like, what's your strategy for helping businesses do that, right? Because I'm sure a lot of companies don't know how to kind of rip the band-aid off and think more long term and strategically around that culture.
Yeah. So one of the things I think for job seekers and organizations that is also key in establishing who you are, figuring out your mission, vision, values, like your values. There are so many valuable questions in your clarity worksheet and what I shared that are really going to be powerful. But knowing what your strengths are too, whether you do something like, now I'm not like a coach or anything, or I'm not paid by Gallup Strengths Funders. I just think that it's a great tool. And I just looked at my top 5 the other day, and strategic is my top 1. And it continues to be because Band-Aid approaches, again, I said that I'm agile, right? Sometimes, and as a business owner, you just have to make the best decision. We've all seen that throughout the pandemic. It's okay. We make a bazillion decisions every single day, and that's all right. But when you really want to connect it into your mission, vision, values, when you really want to understand what's going on, you can, do one of the things that we've been doing a lot of is employee interviews, focus groups, surveys, but it's what we do with that information. Sometimes leaders and organizations are so hungry for that information, but
Mm-hmm.
then they don't do anything with it. It's the action and the intentionality and the consistency.
Mm.
It's having tools and systems in place. And when I say that, a lot of people think, oh, well, we don't have money for a fancy, CRM or HRIS. Yes, I embrace tech. Tech is our friend. But there
Mm-hmm.
are simple things you can do. Create a form on Google. I think that so many times people think it has to be this big blown out
I
thing. It might not be in
yeah,
your budget. Okay,
yeah.
look, I'm a small, scrappy, organic
I
business.
use I use Google, man, all day long. Yeah.
But make it count. Like, make it stick. And if you're doing it for the right reasons, and you're doing it because it's connecting to who you are as an organization, it's connecting you to community, and you're
Mm.
engaging, enriching, and have an intent to evolve your culture, then you really can't go wrong. And what else we do in agility is we sense and adapt. It means we're constantly observing the environment. We're looking at the cycles. We're seeing what happened. We're asking for feedback, like Phil and I are here. If you love this, tell us. If you don't like it, tell us what we could do better, right? Feedback is a gift and feedback is kind. And organizations who know this and embrace that really are going to thrive.
I love it. I love it. I do. Catherine, you don't always have to have a degree in something to pivot.
Absolutely. Or to start, right? There's a
Mm.
lot more conversation going there. And I hope that your job seekers and organizations soak this up, because organizations can have this like unicorn of an idea and we get these lengthy job descriptions. You know this,
Mhm.
that they're writing it for a person, not for the business. And we're not taking into account all that beautiful potential, the diversity, equity, inclusion that's going to come
Mhm.
when we are so like rote and prescriptive about it.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and the other thing too, that this is so important. I keep this up for a minute too, what Catherine said. But the other thing that's really, I think, big on my heart is also like industry experience, right? Because as we know, right,
Mm,
HR is HR, recruiting's recruiting
yep.
to an extent, right? But you know, you get companies need to be more open and more observant to taking on people from other industries, right? Where they bring in a fresh lens, like, oh, hey, I maybe I've never worked in manufacturing before, but I've been in tech, but I come in from a different industry, but I've got a different lens or a fresh set of eyes. Where, hey, I've never worked in manufacturing, but I want to learn your business and I want to understand, the ins and outs and bring a lot of my value add to this company. So yeah, I love
Yes.
that completely. I do. I do absolutely. We have a LinkedIn user. So my friend Ellen Loft, I can see her on this end here. She asked this
Oh.
question. Ellen's fantastic. I'd love to hear your perspective on cultural fit versus cultural add. I'm
Mm.
writing a post about that based on conversations that she's had this week, and I would love to hear from a different POV. Hey, what say you, Tiffany?
What say you? Ooh, we are channeling all our William vibes here. I love this, and thank you for bringing that up, Ellen,
Yes.
because this has been a big topic. I feel like it started to fizzle out, and I don't hear as much about it anymore. But when you look at DEIB, it really is. It's the B. Like I put belonging. I know that people do Jedi, they do EDI. I have clients who do 7 different flavors of it. Make it meaningful and make it stick and do it the right way, not the performative way. And that's what matters. When you're looking at how you bring people into the organization, are you active on LinkedIn? What's your brand out there? Southwest, I know we had some criticism sometime for them, but their brand on LinkedIn is fire.
Yeah.
Like their team is out there pushing that. I have a few clients and they're doing great jobs with it. So it's, what is that brand and how do people see you? And does that match what happens when people come inside? So it's kind of to the point that we said before about industry experience. Sometimes it's like, well, you must have manufacturing experience. Do I really need it though? I've had a lot of
Mm,
jobs. I've worked in a lot of different industries. And
oof.
for now, being a business owner, the fact that I've worked in corporate America, that I've worked in nonprofits, that I've been in HR department of one, trust me, for you SMBs out there, small businesses, medium businesses, that is a strength that I bring to you. If you only want a consultant who has worked in XYZ or only with this state, now California's a little bit different here in the US, don't get me wrong, there you limit the potential. And when I think
Mm,
about culture fit versus culture add, take me as a whole person.
mm,
I don't
mm,
I say often, like, I got tired of trying to fit into boxes where I didn't feel like
mm,
I belonged. And so we should never have to fit into something. We should look at people as an addition, not as an asset, but for what they can fully bring. That's why that potential
mm,
conversation is so important. Like
mm,
me and my whole self, and beyond what you see on paper, beyond even what's in that interview, because there are things that I can contribute that you'll never know if you don't bring me on board. So take
mm,
that as some encouragement, job seekers. Believe in yourselves.
mm, mm. You know what I always love to say? I always love to say a cultural ad. I love because I've heard cultural ad, from time to time, and I've used it a little bit. But I love what you just said. Like, take me in as my full self, and I always like to say my fill self, my fill. But seriously, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I did this post about these glasses, and I'm wearing prescription glasses because I'm getting old, right? And it's like when I was looking at different pairs, I went in and I'm like, oh, I'm overwhelmed. But then I had the experts help. And then they're like, well, maybe these might look good because your face is very square. So I've got squared frames. And I was like, yeah, when I put these on, I'm like, yeah, I feel like Phil. I feel like myself. And
Hmm.
I feel good wearing them because at first I'm like, glasses, but yeah, and that's me. So like, I love that. I freaking love that. And I know Ellen. I know Ellen Lofts is taking so many nuggets off of that. I just oof. I mean, oh my gosh, Krista, say that. Yeah, say that again about job postings. Yeah, can you? Can you say what you just said again about the
What's gonna
job
say?
postings, please? No, repeat,
So
rinse, and repeat.
organic sometimes it becomes
Mhm,
like a fault, so to speak,
mhm,
where it's just like it just comes out because I come alive with what I do. But
mhm.
I think I was talking about the length of some of these job postings and how they don't write them as a business. They write them for the person. Well, Susie 7 years ago did this, and nobody can ever do it like Susie, right? Like, well, Susie's gone now, and 7 years have gone by. Let's not do the same thing and expect excellence. That just like grinds my gears. But really, you want to be intentional. And a lot of the work that I do is helping people craft this. We want gender neutral language. We want
Yeah.
something that calls it in. We know that women are not as likely to apply to positions if they don't feel
Mhm,
like they meet as many or all of the requirements. So don't write a
mhm,
job description that's going to prevent me from maybe applying. Don't write it that it sounds like bro
mhm,
club. I don't want to join a bro club.
mhm.
So I think, different things that we can do. And it's really an opportunity to showcase who you are as a culture. And companies do this really well. You can be succinct with your job descriptions and still tell the story of who you are and what it might be like in the experience in the role.
Oh,
Did I get
yeah. I mean, I feel
you?
so
Like,
good. I feel so good. I mean, but I'm feeling really hard about that because I mean, it's
mm,
so important. Gender neutral. I'm glad you brought that up. Um, yeah, and because my perception is reality, right? Like you also, I love how you said neutral because if you're wanting to attract diverse audiences to apply to a position that you have open, it has to be gender neutral and it has to be attractive and appealing. I say this all the time, right? So I do one-on-one career coaching with mid senior level professionals in all different industries to help them, not only identify their unique talent, but also to showcase their value and their uniqueness on their resume, on their LinkedIn. So a lot of the stuff that you said here on the job description ties into that. And
mhm,
so, I go through resumes all the time with folks and clients and say like, I want you to feel good about your resume, your LinkedIn, and have it be you, right? And not try to
mm,
be somebody you're not, but still showing that value. Same thing with businesses and job descriptions, right? Like,
yeah.
they should not try to be somebody they're not, but at the same time really you know, bring out who they are through their people. And I guess that's kind of my next question, right? So like let's say the business understands their mission, vision, values, right? I'm kind of chronologically asking, right? Let's
Mhm.
say they've got it. Let's say they've got a pretty good employer brand. They're out on LinkedIn, like Southwest. So I'm glad you said that. I got a good buddy, Manzel Chapman, who works there. He's a
That's who comes to mind.
phenomenal
When I think
right
Southwest,
there.
Manziel
Manziel
was
does it.
out
Yep,
there.
he does it. So
Fire.
he does,
Just
yeah.
fire. I
So
want
yeah,
that for every
I
company.
know. Shout out to him. Absolutely love his work and the passion that he does. Yeah, I
Yes.
completely agree. But let's say they've got to that point, right, where they've got the MVV, they've got some employer branding efforts and stuff like that, right? And you know, a lot of times, kind of what I see is like, hey, we have a good company culture, right? Like businesses will say, yeah, we've got a great company culture. We do blah 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 blah. How can organizations show like job seekers, show customers, etc., like the action of them of their culture, right? Like it's one thing to say they have a good one, but how can businesses, I guess on a high level, show their audiences their culture through action,
I think
right?
that's so powerful. And I think doing things like LinkedIn and having that employer brand and involving the employee voice in decisions that are being made, being transparent about that pay is one great way to do that. And so if you're transparent about where am I at in the salary band, where can I grow to, and the same for my roles and responsibilities, what are the competencies that are required for me to get to the next level? If I don't know that, guess what? I'm not probably engaged because I'm not feeling like I'm connected into something. I don't feel like you value me. If you're doing an engagement survey, that's another way you can do that. But if you're not listening to me or you're not telling me what's coming of it, maybe you're doing some great work that you're just not showcasing, then that's
Mhm.
not helpful, right? I think understanding what your clients think about you, servicing your clients, it's one thing, but then to have their feedback on how you can adjust. There is so much good faith that's shown in being infallible. I don't have to have all the answers. I don't know all the answers. So for me, that means sometimes I pull in a partner and I'm going to be open with that. If it's not my lane and I need a recruiter friend, I call up Phil. I tell somebody, I don't have this, or this is not a service that CEPHR offers. So let's pull in a partner. It's really just like being unique and being your unique self. But people forget that along the way. And I think that, it's so often people want to show the compensation piece or the perks. And don't get me started because I'm always making fun of beer and ping pong and pizza, which I love all of those things. However, that's, and a lot of people put that on their job postings. Great. Is that going to keep me here? If I have an hour commute, are you going to be flexible with me? So it's like, where are the things, and this is where employee voice comes in. What are you hearing from your team that they love about working there? Those are the things you want to highlight. Those are the things you want public facing. You want your team to be such brand ambassadors and so engaged that they're going to go out and do
Mhm.
it and talk about your company on LinkedIn on their own. They don't have to be shared that. Now, I say that, and my legal friends are probably like, don't say
Yeah.
that. You want to be
Hold
speaking
on
on
now.
behalf of
Yeah.
yourself and not your company unless you have permission, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Legal, help me out.
Yeah.
But I think those are some of the things that people, organizations really should showcase. Like, can you bring your dog to work? Do you know how much therapy dogs are? There's a reason they are, there's therapy dogs. And that for people makes a difference. I have clients who allow that. Like, what are those unique factors? Because people say, oh, well, I don't offer this, or we can't offer as much pay. Guess what? You're offering things that are, for those of us like me who are intrinsically motivated, that are close to the heart. And that is going to
Mhm.
win all day.
I love it. I love how you brought out employee survey, and I put in the comments too, like what you said. Show audiences culture through the eyes of your employees, like
Mhm.
having them have an employee voice, and
Yeah.
being able and yeah, being able to really, I don't want to say allow, but like really like let your folks and your employees have that voice that they that
Mhm.
they have, right? And speaking or speaking their mind, typing their mind about your brand, right? Because again, right, word of mouth is still the number one form of marketing, right?
Yeah.
And I'll say it, most of my clients that I have come through referrals. They come through word of mouth,
Same.
aside
Mhm.
from LinkedIn, and that's on purpose because I want people to work with me that want to not only, but also the ones that get referrals and say, yeah, that Phil Davis guy, that quirky, weird career coach over there that sings opera. Like what? Like I don't know
Amazing.
about him, but exactly, yeah. Being brand ambassadors to your business is, I mean, it's important because also too, I think right, it shows that if a company does it right, then they're the B part of DEI, right? The belonging part really starts to come into play, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things like people think, well, I hear so much in conversations I have in DIB, like, well, they're included, so how could you not belong? They are not one and the same. They are two separate things for a reason, because I've had
Mhm.
that experience in the workplace where maybe you included me in the meeting, but you didn't invite my ideas. You stole credit from me. Do I feel like I belong in an environment like that? Absolutely not. Are my contributions valued? Do I feel seen, heard, valued, and appreciated? That's when you get a sense of belonging. That is good culture. And without the B, you don't have a good culture. I'm sorry to tell you. If you want to hire someone
Mhm.
who looks like me, who thinks like me, you hire the same people from the same schools or who have a certain thought process, same age group, same lots of things, that's not diversity. And if you
Mhm.
have diversity in those things, yet the way that I'm paid or the way promotions happen or the way information is disseminated in the organization, that's not
Mhm.
equitable. You don't have a good culture. You don't have
Mhm.
diverse, equitable, inclusive, and belonging culture.
Yeah, belonging to also it made me think. So I had, I think last year I had my good friend Tracy Borison come on the show
Oh,
on
love
Fulfillment.
Tracy.
Yeah, and she talked a lot about belonging. And one of the things, and it makes me think a lot of what she said of her mind of of her approach of belonging. And it's all the things you said, but really also it's the belonging of work, right? It's what that person
Yes.
brings and their work style, their work ethic, that kind of
Mhm.
cultural addition part. And her approach of belonging is really about that, where it's like, I'm here to be here, my full self, but also, you hired me, company, to bring my value, my uniqueness to your business, and the work that I do, um, to be successful for you is going to ultimately be successful for your business. And that's my philosophy is that, if people are successful, then your business will be successful, not the other way around. And I
Absolutely.
think a lot of culture, at least in my angle, is around that. That's why I love career coaching so much, because I help my people get their value out there. And we'll talk a lot about things that, oh yeah, I did that in my career. Yeah, put on your resume. Oh, write it down. I have a neighbor, real quick. I had a neighbor, couple houses down. They're about our age, mid-30s or so. Fantastic guy, and he's doing some consulting work while he's in career transition. I said, hey, do you have that on your resume? Because I would maybe add that on your resume if I were you. Say like, yeah, if you're helping maybe a close family member with their business and you're consulting, put it on there. Share it. Share that you're
Absolutely.
doing that. That's your story. That's your career story. I want to go back to because Krista said on the it's back to the job posting thing. We're just going to keep going back there. It's crazy, but it's
It's
important.
important.
Yes, she said. Susie's
No one
gone, and,
does
and
that
that
job.
degree,
Oh my
that
God.
degree doesn't exist anymore, and no one does that job anymore. Can we please update the job posting before we replace Susie?
Before we replace Susie, keywords. Thank you, Krista. Because the number of times I see it done backwards, not good. Not good.
I had to though. I had to put that there. And look, right? Like, job descriptions, and I think just because I do this all the time and I love it, I help my folks out with their resumes, right? And we're making that resume attractive and appealing, right? So those recruiters, those hiring managers will, schedule interviews, right? But the same thing with
Mhm.
businesses, right? You've got to
Mhm.
have a job description that's, we'll say it again, that is not only that neutral, gender neutral, but also is attractive and appealing, right? So that
Yes.
people want to apply to your
Yes. And am
business.
I going to work remotely? Like, tell the story. Don't hold it back. Show me how much I'm going to be making, even if state law doesn't say you have to.
Put it on there.
Tell me what it's like to work there, what you love about. I mean, such an excellent opportunity to talk about yourself and build your brand with someone to get them excited. I love watching like the creativity that happens in these job postings. I look all the time because I'm helping clients with different things. And
Mhm.
while I don't recruit, that's what my partners are for. I've done recruiting, so I know what to look for. But I also am looking at it at the strategic level. How is it going to engage, enrich, and evolve your culture? What is somebody going to feel and experience? It's about the candidate experience and then
Yeah, yeah.
the employee experience. It starts before they even hit the door. And that
Hmm.
that line doesn't always translate for people. People don't understand. It's like, I got to get the person. I got to get the person. Well, you got to do some work to get the person.
Hmm.
You got to show me that you want me in this position. And a well written job posting and job description will help with what you're trying to build.
Yeah, and I think this is really the reason why I wanted to bring you on, because, and I'm glad you said candidate experience, because in my opinion, candidate experience, it does not start when the employee begins. It's, in my mind, I have it written down. Candidate experience, in my mind, it starts with your employees. It does, because if your employees are feeling awesome about your business and you're giving them that that you're empowering, excuse me, that company culture around your people, the word of mouth gets out, people will be happy. That's where then naturally you can create a great employer brand and a great impactful job description,
Mhm.
and have a good application process through your systems, just all that stuff. And it starts there. I think it starts from within. It has to start from within before you can reach out. That's what I think, though. So big,
Yeah.
big.
And the job analysis piece gets missed a lot. And a lot of when we're doing compensation benchmarking, that's a huge piece of it. And people are kind of like, well, why are we doing that? We feel like our job descriptions are good. Are they though? Because we look at the total process. Does it make sense? And what does the market say about this position that you're trying to, right? There's so many little nuances and factors, but I don't let my clients check boxes and I don't let my friends do it either. So if we're doing it, we're not half baking it. We're going all the way or it's not going to work. And I'm going to tell you that. Or I'm going to say, okay, we can do this way, but here's what you can expect versus this is going to be the outcome if we spend the time. It's worth spending your time because then you don't get the right hire. Think about your interview questions when you're looking at DEIB. Do you have a diverse interview panel? Are you debriefing? Are you seeking those other perspectives so that it's not just the hiring manager or all people who work in the same department? Do you involve your team? There are so many different ways to pull in different perspectives, and it can seem overwhelming, but you really do yourself a lot more justice by revisiting your processes, your programs or procedures on a consistent basis. Minimum annually, minimum.
I'm glad you said that. Minimum annually as a minimum. Yeah.
Like the checkup at the doctor. It's a checkup for your business, your processes.
I love it. No, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, and I'm with you. Job analysis. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, it just, because again, right? Like people, or I'm sure companies think, oh yeah, you hear all the time, like, oh, this is how we've done it. This is how we've done it before, and it reminds me, right? So,
do it.
Let's say like change is hard, right? We know change is hard in life, in our careers, in a company culture, that kind of stuff, right? How can I guess on a business perspective, and I can answer it on a job seeker perspective, but on a business perspective, how can companies adapt? Are there ways where companies, in your opinion, can like adapt to culture and if they need to change and transform, like how can they do that like as efficiently as possible? Right?
So Krista, no, don't say this. No, I
This is
literally
how
like
we've
will
always
melt
done it.
down. I just had lunch earlier this week with a former HR colleague, and we were like joking about how we would always walk past and someone used to have a sign at their desk and just why? Like, why are we doing that? Anyway, I think that, the important piece of it, I posted on LinkedIn the other day about change, and there are several questions, and we talked about a lot of them at the top of this episode around like who's impacted, who are we, what's involved, like who's your audience, right? Like you have to do that when you're doing a live stream. We always need to think about these things. There's an order of operations to how you roll out change. You don't want to not tell your directors and you tell your employees, well, that's misaligned. It's, what is the flow? There's a workflow to everything, and it's being creative about that and very thoughtful about what it looks like. It's making sure there's transparency in the communication. Do you have a communication plan? Who's going to deliver that message? Are they the best person to deliver that message? Because let me tell you, I've seen some botched stuff. So make sure, grab somebody, a consultant or something who can help support you. And I'm not saying that from a self-serving space because I'm not even like that. But it really, like, again, if you're not the expert, don't try to do things that aren't in your lane. And this is really where you can allow employees to shine. There are people who are good at different things across the organization, and you can really pull in their talents and make them feel good about their contributions. One of the things, too, is to expect that people are going to resist change. No, not a lot of people. I think I'm, unique that way. I love change. I love it all day. But not everybody's wired to accept that, because as humans, we want to know what's in it for me. Like, why should I buy into what you're saying? You have to essentially prove that to me. And so making sure that you do it the right way. Also, if you're doing it, you want it to stick, whether it's a program or a policy you're rolling out or a training. You don't want to do it just for the sake of doing it to say we had to do this. And yes, there are some legal and compliance things that we have to do for those reasons. But even that, why are you doing that? You still want people to stick. It's not just so you can check a box. So you have to be very intentional about what you're doing.
I love how you keep saying no box checking.
No
right?
box checking over here. We don't do it. We don't do it. You can get
'cause-
mad, but we don't do it.
Yeah, I love that, because what I think about the way you say it, and even just saying it in general, like when I think of like just checking a box, I think that's like more transactional, right? Like a business transaction
Exactly.
versus a business transformation. And I love saying that all the time, like
Same.
especially with like relationship building. Like so when it comes to and you've given us like I mean I've got 2 pages of notes. Like I'm definitely gonna have to like recap and like revisit this thing like twice before I actually do like repurpose posts because this is fantastic. Um, but like on a we talk about like transformational and culture, but also like even digging deeper, right? Like if you really want to transform culture, I would think that you would also want to have relationships be transformational as well and not
Absolutely.
transactional, right? So
Yeah.
maybe on a people perspective, I want to change it because this made me think. See, that's the thing. You make me think about good questions. That's why I like you so much.
It's the power of
Super. It's the power of
conversation.
conversation, the power of community and connectivity and communication and integrity.
Absolutely.
Ooh.
Yes.
So
Ooh, look at you. I'm feeling fulfilled.
me too. So on a people perspective, right? So like let's say, I guess when this will be like on a culture perspective and even on just a job seeker perspective. Um, relationship building, right? It's something that we see all the time on LinkedIn. We see it on other platforms.
Mhm.
Um, how can people or how can companies transform relationships with their people so that that culture is defined, but then also those employees are themselves at that business?
I love this. So, one of my favorite resources is Timothy R. Clark's The Four Stages of Psychological Safety. And it really talks about kind of what I consider to be the core. It's really, it's also like, are you allowing people to challenge you along the way? Are you listening to them? And so, being able to pull those different things in is how you build strong culture. You have to be able to support that with kind of how that's going. Like, what are you hearing? If we don't listen, and I really think it goes back to those values that I talked about. It's honesty, kindness, and integrity. Because if you don't have that, if people you don't have your employees trust, they're not going to tell you what's really going on. They're going to be afraid, and you always want to be in sort of a diagnostic state where you're always observing the environment and you're understanding what's going on. Because and I've had these tough conversations with leaders because sometimes we think we want to know something, but then our team does like these focus groups, interviews, surveys. We people will tell us things because we're external consultants that maybe they don't share internally. And I'll say, this is a gift. You might not want to hear it. You might get defensive. Take this as a gift. Be happy that they're telling someone and that they feel safe to share it because now you're armed with information. Now you can do something with. Hopefully, you're doing something with it. My clients do because they know I'm going to push them too. But making sure that you have information. You've now heard the employee voice. So use the tools you have. If you're surveying people, use that to its advantage. If you're having a one-on-one check-in, ask how they're doing personally. Ask how they're doing professionally. Are there any barriers that you can help remove? What do they need from you? Help them connect to other people and collaborate across the organization. There are so many ways that you really can do this, but it starts with having the openness, right? And the opportunity and the intentionality to make conversations happen, to create feedback loops, to make sure that people have what they need and that they feel supported, whether they got a sleeve of tattoos coming down their arm, they got a fro, whatever they are, whoever they are, in their work and in their person, their being, to allow that to show up. And it's the responsibility of the company and of leadership to help nurture that and help people flourish. And that's when they really feel like they belong. That's again where we get good culture.
Mm, gosh, I love that. That's such a good. That's
Now I'm
just
picturing
such.
a fro. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
such a good response. It's such a deep and empowering response. I mean that is, and I'd say too on the job search side, right? Like just be yourself throughout the process, right? Like
mhm,
the moment that you start, like whether you work with a career coach or not, or a family member or something, or whether you ask for help, like make sure that you're yourself along that process from the beginning to the end and beyond, right? And I
mhm,
think that's important because the folks that have been so supportive working with me and fulfillment and stuff, all of them have been themselves. I go into it with, when people are interested in wanting to work with me, like I tell them, I say, look, if you want to work with me, like awesome, like I encourage them to be themselves throughout the whole entire process. And, whether they're here or not. And so I say too, like, be yourself in the process. And if something feels kind of sticky or fishy, if you're interviewing with a business and stuff, like, dig deep within yourself on that. And I think, ask very, very important questions
Mhm.
as you go through, and even questions around that culture, right? And getting to understand from not even just recruiters and hiring managers, but even those employees at the company. Like if you're looking at like a project management department at a business, find an employee there and talk to them about their experience there. That's not enough people do that, but more need to do
Mhm.
that. Like
Mhm.
try to and reach out. Say, hey, can I talk to you for a few minutes about working at X company and your department in project management and learn a little bit about your experience working there? Just 5 to 10 minutes. See what happens. Um,
Mhm.
see what happens. I think that's huge. You've given us so much information, and I know we're almost close to the time, but I want to ask this final question because, again, people in the audience listening in live on the replay, um, you know, I guess we want to know, like, what one piece of advice or like what takeaway would you want the audience to have today? And as for those folks listening on the replay and stuff, like, what would you say? What was that one thing that people can take away from and remember this conversation by?
I love it. I think, what we started with, I think I would sum it up as walk in purpose. So whether you're a
Mm-hmm.
job seeker, I'd say like trust your intuition and dig deeper into those cultural questions. I once had an interview and I asked a simple question because I worked with a career coach and they said, ask, why the last person left. And when I tell you this woman bristled and she was basically told me, that's none of your business. I was like, oh, this isn't the place for me. Trust your
Mm-hmm.
intuition and ask the powerful questions that you want the answer to because it is two-sided. So walk in your purpose, know who you are, stand in confidence, know that you add so much value beyond what they're going to see on your resume, beyond what's even coming through in an interview when you shine and show up. But also on the organizational side, walk in your why. What's your MVV? What is that mission, vision, values? And that should be the fiber and the thread that threads throughout. That should be what becomes ultimately your culture because you're going to have one, whether you want it or not. So you may as well be intentional about it and think about how do you want people to experience you. So that's what I would say. And at the individual level, whether you're looking for a job, you're in a job, whether you're a leader at an organization, we're all individuals. And so walking in your own purpose and bringing that forward into the workplace, I think that's about as solid as you can get because that's how we really get diversity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. It's big. Ellen says, did that and was terminated.
Mm,
Interesting.
doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like a fit, I would say.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like they valued Ellen as an ad. Too bad for them.
It's their loss.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If they don't see a value add, then it's a loss. That's kind of like what I've started saying just along my own job search. Like if something happens, it's like, well, they just didn't see that I was going to be an addition. So I'm not going to work somewhere that, doesn't see me as a value add. I like that.
And
That's
as a
good.
transformative person, not as a transaction, not just a body to fill a job, but somebody who's really there to help evolve the role in the organization. If you feel that
Mm-hmm.
in the process, in the
Mm-hmm.
recruitment process, that's not somewhere you want to be because the red flag is up. Trust your intuition. And if you see red flags, run from them because too many times I haven't. And it's not been a good outcome in the end.
Mm-hmm. 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 Wow. This is deep. I'm just like reflecting a lot today. This is
I
good.
love this conversation.
Yeah, this is
That
this is
everybody's added to it.
yeah, I mean this has been like really, really, really good and really just transformational and meaningful to me
Same.
as well. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
love it. So folks, where can we find Tiffany? I'm gonna of course put links on the screen. Of course, we can find her on LinkedIn. Let me go to captions here. LinkedIn.com/in/Tiffany Castagno. Very simple
Mhm.
to remember. You can also, I tagged her on the post, this event post, so you can, of course, just click on her name there in blue and you can connect with her. She's fantastic, definitely. She has Twitter, as she said before. Her handle is at Castagno_TMC. So definitely connect with her there. She motivated me and pushed me to join Twitter. So I do not, it's the
Yay.
one account I don't have yet. I do not have Twitter. So I will be joining Twitter and hold
It's
me accountable, folks. Like in the next month, like hold me accountable. I will get a FulPhillment Twitter account open, and I will go over there as well. So definitely hold me accountable. Her website as well for CEPHR, www.cephrconsulting.com. She is all there. So if you want to schedule a chat companies with her and grab some more expertise in defining your company culture and your employer brand and your people, that's the place to go. Go right there, right there. She will be more than happy to get on a call with you.
Yes.
I launched a couple days ago on LinkedIn, and I'll tell people yet again in job seekers, if you are stuck and frustrated in your job search for a limited time only, and I'm telling you this, a limited time only, I don't know how long yet, probably the summer season, I have a free introductory online job search course on my website. So if you go to www.fulfillment.com/intro-online-course, you can access my course there. It's also on my featured section on my LinkedIn. It's the second icon, not the first, because I put this live here for today. But starting tomorrow, it will be the first icon. Click on that icon. You will be able to access the course. So try it out. It's got nuggets filled with stuff in there. Please do, because it's just a way to give back to y'all. And I just get messages all the time like, I'm frustrated, I'm stuck, I just don't know what to do. Here's your solution. Go to this link, check out this course. Please do. Please do. As I said earlier, I'm getting a new kind of career clarity worksheet that I'm going to be launching as well for folks. I get people too that say, I'm in this career, but I want to do something different, not sure what I want to do yet. So I'm going to be creating another resource for folks probably in the next month or so for around career clarity. But if folks want to talk to me a little bit about that one-on-one, I do meetings in that area as well. And then, of course, I'm going to be launching a new LinkedIn newsletter probably over the summer as well, just kind of understanding the job search through the eyes and the lens of a recruiter. That's going to be something that I'm going to bring out as well. So coming soon, a lot of things happening and all that good stuff. And, of course, for folks tuning in on LinkedIn, YouTube replay, thank you all so very much. And even Facebook, because that's right, I forgot. We're streaming on Facebook right now. So multiple areas. But yeah, Tiffany, you've been great. We definitely appreciate everybody tuning in, and we'll keep this up all day. I'm not going to post the rest of the day. Usually I'll let this kind of sit on my page on LinkedIn for the rest of the day. So folks, if you're listening, definitely let us know what you think. And we appreciate everybody's support. Tiffany, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thanks everyone for joining on live and replay.
Absolutely.